Hey everyone, so I had to go out today to get my a new TTC card. There was a tiny crack in my card, and because of that the card is not working now. So it was nice to get out anyway and to go and come back. The thing is, when you are in between jobs in Canada, you have to be available for work. So unless I have something urgent to do, I stay at home just in case work calls me and says come in or whatever. And so I keep in touch with my managers while I'm not working. And I keep them informed, like if I've got doctor's appointments or dentist appointments or whatever, I let them know, because that way they know where I am, they know where I'm going. They don't have to worry. If there's any calls from the police, they can verify. And I say calls from the police because of what I've been through, because it's not normal what I've been through to be tracked and followed and all this kind of thing. So I think it's good to remember that. And I know when we grow up in Africa, we are used to being business owners, we are used to being the leaders. And so, when we were the leaders, we liked it when people told us about what was happening in their families. That way we could be supportive. So it's the same thing when you come to Canada. Some people feel, oh, don't discuss your family, don't say anything, just do your job. But the best companies will want to know, because they will want to support you to the extent that they can. And so with me, I'm open with people. I don't hide anything. And I think that's the best way to be transparent and to be open. And so today I did a bit of reading when I came back on Pope Francis, The Future of Faith. And it's interviews that he's done with journalists. I've talked about this book before. And on, the question of humanism. For a long time, our church did not have languages in the vernacular. So you either had to learn English or you had to just go to the church and not understand anything that was happening. Whereas now, in the modern world, you can go to a church and they'll have the service available in that country, in that language, whether it's in Africa or in Portugal or in Spain. And that's good for people, because then people understand the scriptures and they understand what the priest is saying. It's the same as if we were in Zimbabwe. When they started saying the masses only in Shona or in Ndebele, we couldn't understand what was saying. So for us, there was no point going to the church and sitting there. So they started offering it in English and in Shona, and they would have different mass times for people. And that is not discrimination. That is a way to make it easier for people. The same way that diseases affect different nationalities differently. So in the days of apartheid, we had separate units for Indians, for whites, for coloreds, and that was segregation. But they also find that different people's genetics affect people differently. So it's good for us to remember that. And the interview that I read today was I finished one on the languages and on the popular movements. Many people say that Christianity is communist, but it's not. It's actually the other way around. The values that we say that we have, people say, oh, that's a communist religion, but it's not communist. You have to really look at it and look and see. Communism creates great divides between the rich and the poor. It doesn't have a middle-class society. And if you look at how we grew up when we were poor, we didn't always have, and I'm saying when we were, but I still am poor, because I live off my overdraft. Any little money I get, I use towards educating myself. I use towards getting access to online platforms. I use towards educating myself through reading. So I never stopped learning. But things were hard. The same way that I walk places now. Sometimes I walk 5, 6, 10 blocks to a place to save a little bit on my TTC card. It's the same thing I did in Zimbabwe. when I lived with people, and even at home, we didn't have the petrol to go up and down. So I would walk from home all the way to town. And it was long. It would take me at least an hour to walk from where we lived into the city. It's now a city, it was a town. But the distances were vast. So today when you see what's happening in Zimbabwe, you see the droughts, you see it's affecting the people in the rural areas the most. But we also grew our own crops. We grew our tomatoes, our vegetables, we had a chicken run because we were poor. So all those things helped. If you're growing your vegetables at home and you're harvesting them and you can eat them, it makes a big difference rather than going into a store and buying them. And one of the interviews that I liked in this book that was given by Pope Francis, it's the pilgrimage of the poor, where he talks about us being caregivers and caring for each other as the poor and helping each other and giving thanks to God, because God hears our prayers and God is faithful. And he has one interview in here about the World Meeting of Popular Movements. So there are 3 things that Pope Francis says are important. It's having land, having work, and having housing. And those are the main 3 things that everybody wants. That's what I want. I mean, if you don't have land, if you don't have a place of your own, you're always going to be at the mercy of others. If you're renting, if you're not stable in a country, if you're in and out of jobs. And for a long time, people blame me for the contracts I got. But I've been a good citizen of Canada. I've not caused problems for anyone. I've taken every opportunity I've gotten and I've done a good job. So whether the bankers feel that, oh, my resume is choppy, I moved in and out, who created it? They created it. So they have to be the ones to fix it. They like to hire just in time, 3 to 6 months. Oh, it's my biggest cost. What about all the land you're wasting, all those offices that are sitting empty? And if your people are your biggest cost, who is going to do the work for you? Your people are your biggest asset, they're your biggest resource, but you don't see it that way. And then housing. Everybody needs a home, a place to live. You can imagine Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. They were artisans. They were not beggars. They were not people who lived on the streets. But when they were migrants, when they went and they fled into Egypt, they didn't have a place to go. When Mother Mary was giving birth to Jesus, there was no room in the inn. So how many of us are in that situation? When we need people, nobody's there for us. They'll tell us, oh, go to the church, or go and ask some shelter, or go see what you can do, because we've got our own problems. So, it's not easy when you're in that situation. And I know, because I'm in that situation where I'm desperately trying, I'm working with my company to try to find another position. It wasn't my fault. I did everything right. I was one of the top employees, but they couldn't get my access working. So now I'm waiting, I'm hoping, and I also have limitations. I can't work night shifts, I can't work overnight. So I need to have something that also works for me in order for me to be productive. And then the need for work, which I touched on already. I mean, if you're not earning your own living, you feel like I'm not contributing, I'm at the mercy of others. And that's part of our Zimbabwe culture. You'll find that Zimbabweans are not happy to just stay at home and take money from people. We like to have that sense of pride in saying, I earned my own money, I bought my own place, I bought my own ticket. And yes, it's nice to receive and if people want to help you, but we Zimbabweans, we like that. We like to earn our own, do our own, we like to work, we have strong work ethics. And we take that with us wherever we go, whether we're here or in England or Australia, we are hardworking people. And when people value money over people, then the money becomes the God. And so we pray for God to change people's hearts. We pray for God to help them to see us, that we are also created in God's image, and the hardship we go through. Because what I went through when I came to Canada, when I asked for help towards my education, to retrain, to go to Rotman, to get my HR designation, the companies all said no. And they're still saying no. So whatever I do, I'm doing on my own. And it's very, very hard when you've grown up without your dad. You've got a mom who's been widowed from the time she was in her 20s. And I mean, we went through a rough time. It wasn't easy for us. And so even here today, trying to get any decent paid job is very hard. I mean, if you talk to people, they'll say, oh yeah, you can come and you can clean the dishwashers, or you can put the dishes away. And yes, we do those things at home. But at some point, when you've got the education and you've got the skills, you want things to change for you. And so that is our prayer. I mean, it's my prayer, like Pope Francis, that God changes their hearts, because we didn't choose to leave our countries. Most people leave their countries because they have no choice, because things have become so desperately hard that they have to leave. No, there's no one that would say, oh yes, I'm just going to leave my country and go to America, go to England, go to Canada. Why would we do that? Even the people that come here from India, they come here because whatever money they earn, they send a little bit back home, or they plan to stay here so they can buy houses and they can come up. And those of us who have been here over 20 years, we deserve better from Canada. And we deserve better from the people that we've been helping for 20 years, 30 years, whether it's in the church or with the One Campaign or with any other institution. We also want those opportunities where people will say, hey, did you think of Belinda for this role? Or, you know what, I know somebody, she's efficient and she's good at what she does. She'll be good in your office. We also want those opportunities for us. We're not just doing it just out of altruism to say, oh yes, we're only helping the poor. We want people to remember us and to think of us and say, yes, Belinda would be good in that role. So it's important to remember that. And this book is good because it's good to have the reminders, to have the words of Pope Francis in front of me to reflect on. And when we see decent work being destroyed, we see farmers losing their livelihood. That's what's happening right now in Zambia, in Zimbabwe. People are losing their livelihoods. And even in Canada, as things change, we are adapting, because what we did 20 years ago, some of those jobs exist, but most of them are gone. So we have to also adapt. And when people have forgotten about God, they don't care. If they only value money and they don't care about God, what difference does it make to them? It won't make any difference, because as long as they've got their own money and their own lands and their own 5 or 6 houses and can travel and can do whatever they want, why would they care? Why would I care? If I came here from Zimbabwe and people are starving in Zimbabwe, why should I care? What are they doing for me? They're not doing anything for me. So it's good to read these books to reflect on how we're living, why we're doing what we're doing. And, you know, to be low-waged after all these years, it's discouraging for me. It's discouraging. I mean, it's not like I just sat back and said, oh, I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to study. I'm not going to upgrade my skills. I'm not going to go onto the platforms and learn from YouTube or learn from John Maxwell. I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to work hard. I'm not going to arrive at work early. I'm not going to leave when I need to leave. I'm not going to take my breaks on time. Why should I? And yet you get other people that do that and they get promoted. They get all the promotions, they get all the good breaks. Sometimes they don't even resolve the thing on the call. but somebody liked how they spoke to them, so they get 10 out of 10. And based on those ratings, they get selected for the promotions. And yet you'll have people like my managers who know I'm good, who know that I'm resolving problems, I'm helping customers, I'm helping people, and they try to push for me to get that promotion, to get that break, and they don't get the support. So this is the kind of world that I am living in. It may not be other people's experience, but it's the kind of world that I am experiencing here in Canada, not in Zimbabwe. Right here. The same way, like I told you, when I close my credit card, they're not sending me the statement, and then they're saying, oh, you missed a payment. I said, but you didn't send the statement. Send the statement, then I'll pay it. And they're like, no, the card is closed. I'm like, how do you expect me to know what to pay? Phone us every month. I said, no, I'm not phoning you every month. Send me a statement every month, and then I'll pay you. Does it make sense how our world is becoming? It doesn't. But anyway, that's the world that we are living in today. That's how life is becoming. And even the people who are the drug addicts, the people who are dealing with alcohol problems, all of them, they'll all get special treatment because people feel sorry for them. They're like, oh, shame, they went through drug addiction, they went through being alcoholics, shame, let's give them a break. And what about Belinda? Oh no, she hasn't suffered. She hasn't gone through anything. No special treatment for her. That's exactly how I get treated. So, and even now we have so many natural disasters. We had the forest fires in Canada. Last year, we had all those fires that blew all that smoke into the US. And people sent firefighters from South Africa, from the US, from other places to come and help us. Those fires were so deep in the ground, no matter how much water they put on it, those fires were not going out. So it's the same way that now Zimbabwe is suffering with El Nino. The mentality of Canadians is that if you are suffering, you must have done something wrong. And I'm like, no, I didn't do anything wrong. But this is how they think. If you couldn't get work, it's your fault. If you couldn't find a permanent job, it's your fault. It's you. And yet it's not my fault. I've done everything right. I've done everything right by people, by my companies, by my church, by this Canadian society, which this Canada is my home now, but I was not born here. And yet you get other people who just came into Canada, the church gives them 6-figure jobs. They give them jobs paying $20 an hour, $25 an hour. And I can apply for those same jobs and they'll tell me, you don't have experience working in the church. But they'll hire a Muslim, they'll hire a Hindu to work at Vision Canada, World Vision. They'll hire them. And yet I'm a Christian and I can't get those same opportunities. So, I mean, that's the way the world is becoming. And, I mean, my mom says to me, all you can do is pray. Yes, all I can do is pray. But, you know, it's aggravating. It's frustrating. Because this has been going on for years. It's not just something that started now. It started from the time I came into Canada. And even friends of mine who have children, they're like, our kids can't get jobs here, Belinda. It's not you. They're going to England. They're going to other places where they can get jobs because they can't get jobs here. Even with their education, with their experience, with the volunteer work, they can't get the jobs in Canada. So, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. If there's something that we are supposed to be doing that we are not doing, please tell us. Because it's not good enough to say, oh no, you're doing all the right things. There's no silver bullet. Things will fall into place. That's not good enough anymore. because we are educated people, we are honest people, we are hardworking people. And we also want to come up in life. We also want to own properties. I want to own a property. I want to travel. And it's not like I don't do my share. I apply for jobs online. I network. I go to events. I talk to people. I do cold calling. So they can't say it's me and that it's my fault. And yet you get other people, they rape women, they do all this rubbish, they put them in the prisons, and they get 3 meals a day. And they get support, they get counseling, they get all of that. I'm not saying the prisons are good, but if somebody like me can be accused criminally of lying to the police when I've told the truth, and other people don't want to tell the truth and things are not in my head, then what kind of system are we living in? It's discrimination. It's discrimination. And if all they want is money, all they care about is money, they'll keep investing in the Arab countries because that's where the money is. You can buy a $50 pair of shoes or you can buy a $1,000 pair of shoes. It's still going to cover your foot. I went through times here in Canada where I used to go walk outside the church here. I didn't live here where I live now. I lived about a 15-minute walk away. So I used to go and walk and come to the church. The dogs used to lick my feet. I had holes in my shoes here in Canada. When I moved from Rosewell Gardens to here, the team that came, the guys that came to help me move, they said to me, "Your sheets are threadbare." I said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "Once I sell my place, I'll buy new sheets." And that's what I did. Once I moved here, I bought some extra sheets, extra towels. I've still got some of the ones that my aunt sent me, but that's how I lived. Because I never get those good paying jobs. I never get those opportunities. People said, "Oh, apply to BMO. They got executive assistant roles." I applied. I got all the rejection letters. I kept them. Even today, I got another rejection. I kept it. So, I don't know what people expect me to do. And yeah, Pope Francis says we can pray for them. Yes, we do pray for them, that God would change their minds, that God would change their mindsets, that God would open their eyes. But, I mean, it gets to a point where you're like, what more do you want? And my aunt says to me, "Oh, the young people are just waiting to take the jobs." No, they're not. They're not just waiting. It's us who are the hardworking people. The young people don't care. If they can't get the job, they can't get the job. They got their grandparents' support. They got people who will support them. It's us, it's our generation that are suffering. And no matter how good we are, no matter what good we do, things don't change for us. So why? It's not right. Even all these one campaign and all that, they're like, you do as much as you can. But why is it that we don't get the breaks? That's what I want to know. Oh, keep applying, keep applying. How many thousands of resumes do you have to send out? How much more networking do you have to do? How many times can you tell the priest at the church, "Oh, I'm out of work again"? And more people are coming into Canada. More and more people are coming in and will need social assistance and all that. So, I mean, I'm happy to pay my taxes, but I also want that break. I also want, if the opportunities come, for me to have a break and to say, okay, this is my turn now. Because I've mentored people, I've helped them get into management roles, into customer service roles, into HR roles, and I can apply for the same opportunities and I will not get selected. It's not fair. And don't tell me, "Oh, well, life is not fair," is it? It's structural injustice. And the people that put the structural injustice in place also have the power to change it, but they don't want to. They rather take my ideas and use it to build up their company and leave me out completely, not bother to say, okay, you know what, this is Belinda's idea, so you know what, let's bring her in, let's involve her, let's include her. They don't do that. Or even if there's a trip, an event, oh, we all had a wonderful time, oh, good for you. Did you include me? No. My life is also valuable. My life is just as valuable as the next person's life. And it matters. Strangers, complete strangers are saying, oh, they changed her, they changed her. You know what, maybe it's good, because I never complained. I always just did my work. I contributed, I helped others. I never complained. I never said one day that, oh, you know what? Did you ever think about where I came from and what I went through? But now I'm doing it, because the people that are getting all the accolades, all the support, all the help, they're the people who are talking about it. They're not the people like me who were nice and kept quiet and just did their work. They're the people who talked about how hard things are in Nigeria, how hard things were in Zimbabwe, how hard things were when they were growing up, what they had to do, what they had to go through. So now I'm also talking about it. Because when I was nice about it and I just got on with it, nobody helped. Wits got frustrated because they're like, Belinda, you're doing so much for the South African Canada Chamber of Commerce. You're doing so much for the businesses, for our people who are there. Can't they help you? I said, I asked. They always call me for the menial jobs, doing the hospitality, taking the dishes away, emptying the garbage. That's what they call me for. And they're like, no, don't do that. I said, yeah, well, if I don't get anything else, what am I going to do? Even with the call center, they're like, oh, why did you take a job so far down the food chain? You were in management, you were a consultant. I said, what was I going to do? Go live in a tent? Wait on the 3-year waiting list for the subsidized housing? Because that's what it came to for me in Canada. That's what it came to. I'm not going to give up. And if I get that break, I'm going to take it and I'm going to go. Not that I worship money, but I also need the money to live, to save, to have my own property. I also want that for myself. I'm tired of always being the poor one, of being the educated one who can't get the breaks. And if they don't like educated people in Canada, by all means, talk to people about me. Talk to people about me in Ireland, in Scotland, in Wales, in America. Talk to them and say, we've got this woman here. She's educated, she's hardworking, she's compassionate, she's efficient, she's a good executive assistant. Can you take her? Let them take me. Don't keep me here and spoil my life, because that's not what I want for myself. I do everything right, and with everything I've done, even buying my piano, I bought that piano on my own. Nobody gave it to me. Other people get help from people like Bono and U2 and all of them. They'll help them, but they won't help me. So I'm prepared to do it on my own. I'm used to it. Doesn't mean I like it, but I need that break, and I need somebody to take a chance on me. And then when I get that break, I'll take it and I'll run with it. Everybody else has got two-parent families. They can always move back in with their parents. I don't have that. And my mom is married now, so it's a different situation. So I'm looking forward to the future. Because whatever I've done and whatever I do for Zimbabwe, I hope it helps them. Because I know my people. I know the ethic they have. I know that they're hardworking. I know that whatever they can do to help themselves, they'll do it. They're not like the Nigerians. They don't get degrees and then go and shoot people because they can't get a job. It hasn't come to that, and I hope it doesn't. They would rather leave a country and do what I did, take a menial job and take a call center job with our degrees and our ethics and our skills, than go and kill somebody like the Nigerians. So people should think about that.